Hi everybody, welcome to the Ditton Works Facebook page. This morning I'm repairing a Ditton 33 10-inch bass unit. Customer sent it to me because at certain frequencies he was getting a buzz and a funny noise. So it's been sent to me, and upon investigation this is suffering from mild cone sag, which is basically where the driver's been sitting in an upright position in the cabinet for so long that the cone and the suspension has all sagged slightly one way, giving you a little bit of coil rub. So what is involved is completely removing the surround off the chassis, realigning the coil, and then sticking it back on. Now that seems to be fairly successful, so I'm quite happy with that. One thing I am going to do is just put a little bit of this rubber treatment stuff on here, which will get rid of that dust that the camera's probably now picking up. And that will just protect the rubber slightly, keep that all nice and fresh for the next few years. That just cleans that up. We'll just let that soak in a minute. And yeah, it was quite dirty. Now, I don't think it's the case with this particular speaker, but I have had speakers come in that they've lived in a house where the individual smoked heavily indoors, and that leaves a residual nicotine tar kind of deposits on the rubber, particularly on the cabinets. I'm sure any one of us has had at one time or another a speaker come in that really smells funny. The worst for that is books. If you've ever picked up an old book and you're like, wow, this stinks. I actually don't mind the smell of a vintage book, but right, so that should have treated the surround nicely. And what we also want to check here is that the rubbing has gone. Now you could test this with music. The trouble is as there's so much going on in music, there's multiple frequencies, it's very difficult to actually try and listen for any faults in the actual speaker. So what I would do is run a test tone. And there we are, we'll set that right down at 20 Hertz. And I know that that's salted out that coil rub. There's no way that speaker could jump up and down like that without that scraping sound being there. So we'll just do it incrementally. So that's 20 Hertz, 31.5, 63, which is really where that was getting the major problem before, 125, 250, 500. And that, I think, has solved the problem. Very easy little setup. All this is an app on an iPhone or on a phone. So if anybody wants to test their speakers in that manner, you can get the app on a phone. Then I ran it through a very cheap little MIDI hi-fi thing because I didn't want to stress a decent amplifier. One thing I would be mindful of is don't have the volume too high. You don't need to run it ridiculously high just to get a few sort of tests done or a frequency sweep through it. Also, if you're going to do tweeters, make sure there's a crossover attached. You don't want to be putting 20 Hertz signals through a live tweeter. It's okay to do it on the bass driver because that can handle the entire range. It will just run out, naturally roll out of its frequency range. But that, I think, is completely fixed. So that's the little update on a repair I've done today. The only thing I wasn't happy with is a slight glue overspill here, which I'm afraid that was a case of the day I did this, central heating was on to help the glue go off, but it probably went off a little bit too quick. So some of the slight overspill I didn't manage to get. But the most important thing is that free movement on that cone. So this Ditton 33 can work nicely again for the next 30 odd years. Anyway, take care guys, I'll catch up with you soon.